Good evening. I'd like to call the April 14th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Commissioner Bourdon, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Of the United States, one nation under God.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Sandy Griffiths, and I'm the chairperson of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I will be presiding over the Commission's deliberations on hearing items this evening. The Planning and Zoning Commission sits in an advisory capacity to the Town Council. As such, the Commission reviews planning and zoning issues and forwards recommendations regarding these issues to the Council. All members are appointed by Town Council and volunteer their time. If you wish to speak during the call to the public or on a public hearing item, when you are recognized by the clerk, please come to the microphone and state your name and address. I will ask that you direct your pertinent questions to the Commission through the chairperson and not to staff or individuals within the audience. A 3-minute time limit will be imposed. I understand there are differing viewpoints on this public hearing item this evening. I would like to express in advance the Commission's appreciation for fostering an atmosphere of respect and cordiality. That's extremely important. This evening's proceedings will be conducted as follows. First, I will read the public hearing item into the record. Staff will then present the agenda item and their recommendations to the Commission. The Commission will question staff. The applicant will be invited to address the Commission and answer questions from the Commission. The floor will then be open to comments from the public regarding the hearing item. After the public comment has closed, the item will return to staff for clarification or comment, then back to the Commission for comments and/or a motion and vote. Clerk, will you please take roll call?
Chairperson Griffiths,
Here.
Commissioner Bourdon,
Here.
Commissioner Rutherford, Commissioner King,
Here.
Commissioner Hewitt,
Here.
Commissioner Laney, Commissioner Erb.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Clerk. At this time, call to the public. At this time, any member of the public is allowed to address the Planning and Zoning Commission on any issue within the jurisdiction of the Commission, except for items scheduled for a public hearing at this meeting. The speaker may have up to 3 minutes to speak. Clerk, do we have any call to the public speakers?
I believe we do, but we were having technical difficulties, so the only one that got put in was Patricia Betzel, but there may be others that were missed.
And Ms. Betzel?
Is this one working? Yes, it is. Okay. Patricia Betzel, Chino Valley. Dear Commissioners of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I want to first say we appreciate the time and effort that all of you put in volunteering to act as commissioners. We understand the challenges of making a decision with the best interests of the community at heart, based on the information included, or should we say not included, in the staff reports provided by Development Services. Perhaps there are other meetings going on that the public just isn't privy to that information, but from our perspective, there isn't a lot of information in those staff reports, and we find it difficult to come to conclusions. What we do know is that in many cases, such as Quad Cities Waste Management Project or the project we're going to hear later, there's just not enough information provided for us to feel comfortable with the Commission making a decision, including today. And we are also confident that the Commission is not necessarily aware of all the facts related to the cases, especially when those facts come out really close to the actual meeting. As stated in PV's General Plan 2035, unlike individual businesses or activities, communities can never just pack up and move away. They are in it for the long haul, and the decisions we make today, the decisions you'll be voting on, will be with us for decades to come, for better or for worse. While Arizona is a property right state, or it's known as a property right state, the State Law Zoning Enabling Act of ARS 9-462 gives municipalities the power to zone as a tool to protect the public. That Euclidean zoning process separates incompatible uses, for example, housing from industrial. This has been held up by the U.S. Supreme Court and also by the League of Cities and Towns that we use often as a reference here in Prescott Valley. In addition, withholding information from the public robs us from participating in the process, which is our right, and without all the information, the Commission simply cannot fulfill its mission as set forth before them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Betzel. Are there any other speakers that may not have had the opportunity to register that would like to speak at Call to the Public? Thank you. Agenda item 5, announcements. Commissioners, any announcements? I have one I'd like to make. I'd like to welcome with open arms, love, adoration, respect, our 2 new commission members, Ms. Bree King and Mr. Joe Hewitt. We're pleased and happy to have you. Thank you for donating, volunteering, and giving your time. It means a lot. The minutes, February 10th, 2025, Planning and Zoning regular meeting minutes. Are there any changes and/or a motion for approval?
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Erb. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Bordone. Voice vote, all in favor? Yay? Yay?
Yay.
Any nay? Thank you. The minutes are approved unanimously. Agenda item 7, public hearing item. 7A, ZMC 25-004, Project Lynx. A request for a zoning map change from RU 70, residential single-family rural, to IG, Industrial General Limited, for approximately 100 acres. APN 401-01-009N. Mr. Ernest Ruby, Deputy Development Services Director, making the presentation.
Thank
I
you,
will
Chair.
now open the public hearing.
Thank you, Chair. Soon to be Vice Chair and members of the Commission, thank you. The item before you is a zone map change, 25004. And this zone map change, and I'll explain to you as I go through my presentation, also includes a preliminary development plan which is required for any zone map change pursuant to our code. As you all know, our zoning code was updated and adopted and was valid as of January 11th of this year. So that's the code we are now following. Staff has had a lot of questions, concerns, letters, emails, things of that nature, both in favor and opposed to this project. A lot of the questions were in regards to the process. What is Growth Tier 1? What is PAD 4.1? How does the rezoning procedures work? So with your indulgence, I'd like to go through these processes for you to explain to you and to the citizens how the process works. So with that, I'd like to start with General Plan Growth Tier and Development, General Plan Growth and Development Tier 1. Basically, the outline that you see on the overhead is the town boundaries, the town limits, if you will. And that area is approximately 26,000 feet, or 26,000 acres. Sorry about that. Most of which is within the town limits. This land is available and appropriate to accommodate the growth and related infrastructure expansion anticipated during the time frame of the general plan. The strategy is to direct growth within town boundaries so that new development occurs in a logical fashion adjacent to existing development and creates logical extensions of infrastructure. And that being said, we can see on the Growth Tier 1 map, which is before you, that this area, Pad 4-1, is in the upper right-hand corner of the town boundaries. It is within the town boundaries and was actually annexed into the town. Let me get to 4-1. This is General Plan Pad 4-1, approximately 1,575 acres south of 89A. It includes mixed uses, includes rural-related business services, provides diverse housing opportunities for area workers, and is a mix of fairground, racetrack uses, business park, and offices. It also could accommodate hotels, resorts, regional and community, commercial, open space, and medium to medium high density residential. Now, the proposed zoning of this property is from RC 70, which is rural, 70,000 square foot minimums, to the IG industrial general limited zone. Now, in the industrial limited zone, it is intended to provide manufacturing development, wholesale, and commercial uses with the heaviest impacts, which, while not necessarily attractive in operational appearances, are installed and operated in compliance with all government standards and in a way that does not cause inconvenience to other uses in the zoning district to the adjacent zoning district. One thing to remember about the Pad 4-1 zone is that it is within the town boundaries. It is adjacent to existing infrastructure, and it is available for development at this time. The size of Pad 4-1, is, as I mentioned, is approximately 1,575 acres. It is south of 89A and adjacent to the fairground complex. This includes a mixed use for the character of the area, and that character is to include support services for the racetrack and the fairgrounds, rural-related business services, and diverse housing opportunities for area workers. Now, the land uses in Pad 4-1 are support uses for the racetrack and the fairgrounds, business park and offices, hotels and support uses, resorts, regional commercial, open space, and medium to medium high density residential. Now, keep in mind, this is a mix of uses that could go into the area, not necessarily that those are what it would be zoned to. The actual zoning in the area is RC. Here you can see the Project Lynx site. It's approximately 100 acres, and the area that surrounds it is developed to some extent, but basically vacant to in other areas. Now, the vicinity map here for the zone map change 25004 shows that it's approximately 100 acres. The required PDP that goes with this zone map change is approximately, well, less than 20 acres, 19.23 acres. And that would be on the southern boundary of the pink, I guess it is, rectangle that you see. Now, the zoning in the vicinity, it's been mentioned that maybe this wasn't an appropriate use for this area based on the existing compatible uses. As you can see here, to the right of this project is the green area, which is public lands. That public lands project, and this whole area was actually annexed in 2001. The 197 acres that comprises the public lands area as the fairgrounds was changed to public lands from the county designation of RCU 2A in October of 2001. And one of the things I'd like to mention is anytime the town annexes a property, it is annexed to the most comparable zoning designation that it comes in from the county. In this case, this area is surrounded by the RC2UA district, which is 2-acre minimum in the county. Our closest zoning designation would be the RC70 designation, or 70,000 square foot lots, approximately an acre and 3/4. Subsequent to the rezoning for the public lands for the fairgrounds, the red square that you see on the map is a commercial pad. This was rezoned from the PL lands to minor industrial planned area development on that 12 acres that you see there. To the south of this project, you can see is a Yavapai County facility, which includes the medical examiner's office or the morgue. It also includes office facilities for the county, as well as an impound yard. And to the west, you see the track there that the county utilizes for some of their employees. As you can see, superimposed here is the project site in white. You can see it's adjacent to County Trail, or County Fair Trail, across the street from the Knacker's Warehouse Distribution Facility and just north of the county facilities. As we move along here, we see that it's time to talk about what our rezoning procedure is. I've mentioned to you the Tier 1 analysis, and then the project or the PAD 4.1 analysis. And the Tier 1 is designated for those areas of the general plan that are within the town boundaries adjacent to existing development and infrastructure. PAD 4.1 is breaking that down from the 10,000 foot level of the Tier 1 designation to the PAD 4.1 at about 100 feet. So it goes into a little bit more detail. Subsequent to that is our rezoning procedure. And I'd like to go through that with you because it was modified slightly with our development code update. So in the code, section 1314.060 are the rezoning procedures. And section A talks about the section shall apply to all applications for rezoning, including without limitation applications for rezoning to PD, planned area development. The applicant shall submit a proposed preliminary development plan to the Development Services Department with the application for rezoning. Some of the confusion has been with the terminology preliminary development plan, because in our old code, the preliminary development plan came to Planning and Zoning Commission. With your recommendations, it went to Town Council as a final development plan. That procedure has changed a little bit, so I'd like to continue to go through that. And where you see that preliminary development plan italicized, we think a better description would be a concept design plan, because that's basically what it is. It's kind of laying out the concept, the design for the project, for the rezone. Now, as we move on, section B1 indicates that the proposed development plan shall include maps, depictions, drawings, and associated text prepared by or on behalf of the application or the applicant in support of the application. It also goes on to say at the rezoning hearing on the application, where we are at today, the commission shall review the application and the proposed preliminary development plan / concept development plan and determine whether to recommend approval of the application, considering all matters pertinent to the application, including, without limitation, the following: that the proposed preliminary development plan, concept development plan, if you will constitute an environment of sustained desirability, stability, and that it will be in harmony with the character of the surrounding developments and neighborhoods consistent with the general plan and this chapter. 2, to the extent to which the value or use of the property adjacent to the proposed rezoning will be adversely affected by the proposed preliminary development plan or concept development plan. The Commission at this time may request that the applicant modify, alter, adjust, or amend the preliminary development plan / concept development plan for consistency with the objectives of the general plan and this chapter. And at the conclusion of this public hearing, the Commission shall make a recommendation to the Council to approve or deny the application.
Mr. Ruby,
Yes, ma'am.
just a question on terminology and wording. Inasmuch as preliminary development plan is already embedded in the code, correct, the zoning code, how are we going to communicate or transfer or bring in new terminology, concept design plan, which, by the way, I do like, but how are we going to tie these together?
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. What we intend to do moving forward is to make a modification to our Chapter 13 to replace preliminary development plan with the concept design plan. And one thing to note at this time, as we move forward and look at additional phases in this 100-acre rezone, because as you know, the preliminary development plan for phase 1 is approximately 19.23 acres for this particular development. Each subsequent development, according to our code, will require a similar preliminary development plan that will come before the Commission for your review and recommendation, and it will be forwarded to Council for their final approval or denial at that time. So each phase will stand on its own.
I have one more question
Yes,
on
ma'am.
the concept design plan. Will that be an administrative change in the code, or will that have to go through the whole P&Z and town council approval for some word changes?
Chair and Commission, I would like to just read to you what the code says. And it actually says, each phase will be subject to the same requirements. PDs, or planned area development properties, in each PD are regulated based on site-specific regulations. Each PD, preliminary development plan, concept development plan, is adopted through the rezoning process set forth in Article 1314, which is what we're doing here today. So moving forward, each phase will go through the same strenuous requirements that will come back before the Commission for your recommendation and conditioning to move forward then to Council for their final approval. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay. Moving right along, this is the section for, I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Ruby.
go ahead, Commissioner.
Yes. So on page 2 of the staff report that we have, bullet 2, it says that the rezoning of this parcel allows for potential development of this area. It's bullet 1, my apologies. Each subsequent phase in this area will require preliminary development plan to be heard by town council for final approval, but it does not mention that it's going to come before this commission.
Okay, that will require it to come before the Commission prior to it going to Town Council.
Okay, so then I would request, please, that for the minutes for when we approve them for next meeting, that we can include for this bullet that will also come before the Planning and Zoning Commission, please.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. So this section here is for the Commission, what the Commission's duties, responsibilities, and recommendations would be. Moving forward to Council, the same section, starting with F, states that the Council, after recommendation from the Commission, the Council shall hold at least one public hearing on the application in compliance with the Arizona Revised Statutes. Goes on to say that the council approval of an application, and in quotation marks there, or in, it's for rezoning. So the council approval of an application for rezoning includes approval of the preliminary development plan. So that means that part and parcel of the rezone process is that each and every application in a pad will be required to have a PDP, part of that zone map change, but that would go to council. And that also applies, according to the code, for every subsequent phase. So for example, this is phase 1. If there's a subsequent phase 2, 3, 4, each one will be subject to the same requirements to come before you as a commission, and then will then be forwarded to the council with your recommendation and conditions. So that being said, this is what the council is required to do. And I think we covered F2. Council approval of an application for rezoning includes approval of the preliminary development plan. 3 says, except and to the extent council's approval expressly states otherwise, compliance with the approved preliminary development plan is a standard condition of council approval for any application for rezoning. So that's a little bit of change from our previous plan, or our code, zoning code, which required, if you recall, the PDP approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, which was then forwarded to town council for a final development plan. This is the update to the code, and this is the new standard procedure that we will be following. G states that during the public hearings on the rezoning, the commission may recommend and/or the council may impose reasonable conditions of the rezone to lessen any negative impacts of the rezoning. After council approval, and here's one of the differences, after a council approval, the approved preliminary development plan / concept design plan will be deemed an official plan, and the town clerk shall record it in the office of the Yavapai County Recorder and maintain one or more copies in the town's official files. So after your recommendation on this particular zone map change, which includes the requisite preliminary development plan / design concept plan, it would be forwarded to council. Once council makes a determination on that, what it'll do, it'll be recorded. Now, one of the questions that might be asked is, what comes subsequent to that? What comes subsequent to that is the engineering documents. All the engineering documents that are required, including approval of a traffic impact analysis, drainage and grading, and all the requisite utility studies that might be required for that project. That will be done by the town engineer's approval after the council approves the preliminary development plan or the concept design plan, whatever you want to call it. Now, as we move on, let's talk a little bit about this project itself. First of all, it's 100 acres that is being asked to be rezoned from the RU 70 current designation to industrial general. Now, you might ask, why industrial general? Well, there's a definition of industrial general that talks about what the zone is intended to do, and it's intended to provide locations for manufacturing development, wholesale and commercial uses with the heaviest impacts. And it was determined here that probably the heaviest impact would be traffic, that County Fair Trail did not meet the standards for an industrial collector. The town engineer, through the TIA, in conversation with the applicant, has been working on those standards and what they will be. So it's not like the preliminary TIA, which I believe was part of your packet, will be the final document. It will not. It will be refined to the approval and the consent of the town engineer. So that's a little bit about how that thing will move forward. Let's talk a little bit about the site plan. The site building is approximately 86,800 square feet. It has access on County Fair Trail, with strategic entrances on that side. Parking provided is 398 spaces, where the code requirement was 394. The project will have extensive landscaping with a 10-foot required buffer on County Fair Trail. All species will be low water use and drought tolerant off of the Prescott AMA approved planting list. And additional landscaping will be provided around the building and along the entrance.
Mr. Ruby, back to the landscaping, I'm sure that that will be an approved item, and the developer will use an appropriate landscape architect to come up with that plan and design.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, our code requires a registered landscape architect to provide the landscape plan, so that will be part of the approval process as it moves forward to the next stage. And that will be required prior to council review. The building itself will be 33 feet high. Our code allows 35 feet in any zoning district. So the call for this building being at 33 feet is within our code requirements. Now, there was a comment in one of the letters, I believe, about floor area ratio for this building, and that it could be up to 1.0. Well, floor area ratio is measured by the square footage of the building divided by the square footage of the parcel. And in this particular case, with the 86,000 square foot building, 86,800 square foot building on approximately 19.23 acres, that floor area ratio is not 1.0. It's actually 0.1. So just a correction on something that was previously stated. The building itself will be concrete with 10 loading docks. Ingress, egress will be off a County Fair Trail, and you can see the palette of colors that will be utilized for this building. Now, this is also in an area, and we've contacted the Arizona Game and Fish. They provided this map for us, which looks at this area. As you can see, the yellow rectangle in the box to the right there is in the green hatched area. This is actually a wildlife diffuse area where the wildlife may or may not enter and move. The blue hatched area is the wildlife crossing area. This is actually an area that needs to be identified so that animals have an area to cross from the diffuse area. One of the things that Development Services is currently doing is working on a wildlife corridor plan, which will address both the need and the size for wildlife corridor in this area. So that's something that we're working on. We're hoping to have that back for public consumption, if you will, in third quarter, maybe fourth quarter of this year. So that will actually identify areas. We're working with a firm that will help provide the expertise that we need to identify those areas. So that's one of the things that we're doing at this point. So we are looking at the wildlife corridor area. We know this project is within that diffuse area for wildlife. We want to make sure that we identify it and we identify corridors for the animals to be able to transgress this area. So that being said, what are the next steps for this project? Well, next step is based on your recommendation and any conditions that you may impose on the project. Next step will be to town council for the project consideration of your recommendations. That will include a final traffic impact analysis, building and engineering permit submitted for review and approval by the town engineer. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have. The attorney for the representative is here, as well as some agents of the company, and the town engineer is here to ask any specific engineering questions that you might have in regard to the project. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Mr. Ruby, job well done. Thank you, sir. Commissioners, do we have any questions for Mr. Ruby? We'll start down at this end. Ms. Rutherford?
Oh, I think it's relatively complete.
Thank you. Commissioner Bourdon?
Thank you for a very good presentation. I appreciate that you went over kind of the changes in code because that did happen over the last year. So it's nice to kind of see in the context of this application how we proceed. So you envision 2 approvals tonight, one separated from the other, right? Okay.
Thank you for asking that question, Commissioner. No, forgive me, I should have mentioned it. The action item, which is a PDP for this project, is not required. It shouldn't have been noticed that way. It is one approval because, as I mentioned earlier, the zone map change requirements require that PDP to be a component of that. So it'll be one motion as you move forward.
Yeah, I just wanted to
Thank you for
clarify
bringing that up.
Second thing is, thank you for a very good package. It was put together well. We always catch something, but I wanted to make a comment that, you guys put together good packages, and I do a lot of work elsewhere. You guys turn in to the commission very early. You give us this, I think, 10 days ahead of time. So I really appreciate it because it makes it very easy on people like us who are volunteering to review the materials. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And just as a follow-up, you're absolutely correct. We have to send the packets out 10 days ahead of time so that you can receive those. Those go out to the public. And there's invariably additional comments, letters of opposition, letters of in favor of the project to come in after that. As a matter of fact, I believe you were handed out one of the letters of in favor of the project. That wasn't the only one. That was from the owner of the RV park. We also received a letter today from the owner of the fairgrounds in favor of the project. There was also a letter in opposition that was circulated to you. So we try to present both fair sides of an application when it comes in.
No, I just want to make sure I appreciate it because not only do I get the information from Community Development Services through the clerk's office early, but you do feed any information in a prompt manner that comes in. So thank you. It's really helpful from a review perspective.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Erb, any questions of Mr. Ruby?
Yes, I do. I actually have one. It's more of a clarifying question for my education. The audience might want to know this as well. Earlier in your description of the process and how these will proceed and eventually end up at council for approval of the preliminary design plan, how binding is that preliminary design plan once council has approved that relative to now we move forward with engineering analysis, drainage packages, building permits, submittal for review? Being an engineer myself, very often we go through conceptual design plans and they change. They change because the developer makes changes. The client, in the end user, wants to make a change. So is that allowed, number one, if the council has approved that preliminary design plan, and does it have to come back to us and start that process over?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Erb. Very good question, by the way. The preliminary development plan or concept design plan has to be in significant conformance with the engineering documents, and those will be reviewed by the town engineer, who will review them not only for their adequacy, but also for the content within the plan itself, but impacts to the town infrastructure. So water utilities, sewer utilities may change based on engineering, as you know. There may be a line that needs to be moved because of conflicts. There may be, hopefully not, hopefully it's been identified by that time of the preliminary development plan, but whether a line would need to be relocated, upsized, if you will, to accommodate potential additional growth in the area. So it's a significant conformance to the original plan as determined by the town engineer.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Laney?
Always forget my microphone. Thank you, Ernest. This was an amazing packet. It was one of the better ones we've had for quite some time. And I also would like to compliment you on the presentation which is easier for the public to understand, because it's important that the public understands what we're doing and that they know they have input. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Hewitt?
Yes, I thank you again for a great package. I echo what Commissioner Bourdon says, and I think Commissioner Erb stole a little bit of my thunder there with that question. But following up to his question with the preliminary design plan, I know we've got some information regarding the preliminary traffic impact. I know there were some questions and some concerns with the community about traffic. Will there be somewhat of an off-site preliminary plan included with the preliminary design plan? And the reason why I ask, I know there's adequate right-of-way. There's about 100-foot right-of-way for the road, County Fair Road, or County Fair Trail. But it'd be nice to kind of see something ahead of time that kind of addresses the development as a whole. Sometimes they forget a little bit about the off-site improvements. And then when they get in the middle of everything, everybody throws their hands up, and they either need additional right-of-way. Maybe not the case here with the 100-foot right-of-way, quite a bit of room for the improvements. But I wondered if there'd be the off-site improvements would be included in a preliminary.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. What I'd like to do is ask the town engineer to come up. He was in recent conversations with the applicant engineer on the TIA, and as recently as today, they had conversations. John, can you maybe address that, please?
Good evening, Chair and Commission. Thank you very much for the question. You were asking about off-site improvements, and we did include in the conditions, condition number 4, the developer will be required to have an approved traffic impact analysis finalized with any off-site improvements by the town engineer. So we have already identified potentially what those off-site improvements could be. We're taking a look at what would be needed to improve County Fair Trail, but also State Route 89A and the intersection of State Route 89A and Robert Road. We have been talking with ADOT, and we're reviewing the TIA with them. We did request some additional information from the applicant and their engineer, and we just received that, and we're working with them on getting enough information so that we can identify what those off-site improvements would be. The schedule here for the project just didn't really allow us enough time to get that kind of information in the packet, and that's why it was not there.
Thank you.
Commissioner King, any questions of Mr. Ruby?
Yes, please. Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Ruby, for your presentation. I very much speaking to the pronghorn. That's a big deal for our community and the wildlife here, and something that is very important and what we pride ourselves on as Prescott Valleyans, so thank you for that. I want to kind of take a step back here and talk about something that's a little bit more general that relates to the code itself, the general plan, and how this language is working and fitting in. So my understanding from the 2035 general plan is this sits under pad 4.1, correct? And the definition under pad 4.1 explains, and it's also on page 5 of the project narrative, but it reads that this is a mixed-use area that includes support services for fairground, racetrack, rural-related business services, and diverse housing opportunities for area workers. So I'm having difficulty understanding how we are slotting industrial use into this pad 4.1 description per the GP. So that, or
Yes.
I can go further if you like, but we want to start there?
Well, let me give it a stab. If I don't answer you properly, please feel free to stop me and make me go in the right direction. This area has a mixture of uses under pad 4.1, which could range anywhere, as you said, from commercial to light industrial. And the IG zone, the industrial general zone, is the lightest industrial zone in our code. We also have an industrial heavy zone, which is more for heavy type manufacturing, big polluters, if you will, traffic generators, things of that nature. But within this mix of uses in 4.1, it could range for anything from the business park that we're endeavoring to move forward here to residential housing. And if we look at it from the residential housing impacts, it could be up to 15 units per acre. And the water allocation, the water usage for 15 units per acre is significantly higher than an industrial type use like this, a warehouse distribution. So those are the things we'd look at. Now, it doesn't mean that within this 1,575 acres, there wouldn't be a residential component. It would have to be, first of all, annexed into the town, because as you saw this area, there's a lot of vacant land, Arizona State Trust land, surrounding this area. So when that came in to the town, if it was annexed, it would come in at the same zoning designation, comparable to what the county is. So it'd be the RC 70,000 square foot minimum lots that would be required. Now, in terms of what uses could go in there, it would be site-specific, project-specific. So each use that came in would be required to undergo the same rezoning process, the same pad process, with the same documentation that's occurring for this project in terms of preliminary development plan or preliminary TIA, preliminary drainage and grading, et cetera, into a finalized plan that would be reviewed by the town engineer for consistency with town code and also the general plan. Did I cover that, or am I lacking?
No, you're doing good. It's hoping, and a lot of this too is to get this out to the community so that they can understand how we are actually taking something that's a RU and pushing it into an IG, right, and what that looks like. So, but the ask here is not for only the 20 acres. The ask here is for 100 acres. So it's not specific to what the ask is. The ask is 100 acres. So we might need to get a little bit more information on, from the developer or whatnot, who I believe is here to speak, or the attorneys on the project. But I think that's important just to note that the ask is to change 100 acres to IG from the RU. And so if you look at the definition of from the town code of what industrial general limited is, which we've stated here, but it does read that while not necessarily attractive in operational appearances, are installed and operated in compliance with all governmental standards and in a way that does not cause inconvenience to other uses in the zoning district or to adjacent zoning districts, right? So if we then take that a step further and we say, okay, what are other uses within the zoning district and the adjacent zoning districts? What we see that you can also look on, it's on page, of the project narrative, on page 6. The adjacent zoning districts in the north is RCU, residential single-family rural. In the east, residential single-family rural. In the south, it's residential single-family rural. Now in the west, we have a little bit of movement there, right?
Right.
But the point is that per IG, it says not cause inconveniences to other uses in the zoning district or adjacent zoning districts. And 3 of the 4 adjacent zoning districts are marked as residential currently, right?
Rural residential, yes, ma'am.
Residential, right?
Right.
Okay, so to me, a facility like this could possibly put inconveniences on these other districts. And then if you take that another step further, yes, to the west, which we are emphasizing here, right, that there is the minor commercial, minor industrial, right?
Right.
Okay, so the commercial minor industrial has readings that says, and situated so that highway frontage does not present a poor image of the community. And this project at issue right now, Project Lynx, butts up to the highway frontage. So IG is a lesser, or is a greater, more substantial zoning than is commercial minor, which there is from the Pepsi bottling plant, right? But the ask here is to put this 100 acres onto the frontage road with an IG standard, which is heavier and higher, I'm gonna get myself some water, than a commercial industrial, which requires it to be buffered. Can you speak to the frontage road a little bit and how it butts up to the highway, and then additionally, the inconveniences that it might put into play for these other residential adjacent districts?
Absolutely, Commissioner King. Thank you for the question. The 100-acre request is to rezone the property. This particular plan development, preliminary development plan, design concept plan, is for the lower 20 acres. It's not fronting the highway itself. The project is not. The rezone is. And as I mentioned earlier, each phase of this project will come back before the commission and the council for review as to their adequacy for things like traffic impacts, beautification along the highway, whether a 500-foot buffer is required along 89A, or whatever number is determined would be adequate, type of screening, types of uses will be considered. So yes, the request is to rezone the 100 acres to an IG designation. It doesn't mean that it's going to be those uses. We went over earlier the types of uses that could be allowed in this district, both PAD 41 and the zoning district IG. Within the IG designation, you're absolutely correct. It could have some more intense uses, and I think that's where you were going with that. But each one of those phases, each one of those uses would be subject to the same type of review by the commission and the recommendation to the council. So, for example, you wouldn't see a nuclear power plant going along 89A because of the type of use. You probably wouldn't see anything like an industrial solar farm or anything of that nature in that area. What you will see are comparable uses to the use that's being asked for in the plan development or the preliminary development plan. So again, the review process is what's going to determine what real uses go there and what impacts they have and what conditions may be applied to that particular use. One thing to note is you're right, the red square that we see in this vicinity zoning is a commercial pad. They were rezoned, I believe I said in 2007, to that use. Could this have been a commercial pad? Conceivably, but it would have been on the high end of our performance manufacturing zone. It would have been kind of iffy there. It fell right in within this IG designation. And we can speak a little bit more to that. The attorney for the applicant is here who prepared that, and we can get some of his thoughts on why the IG was requested as opposed to performance manufacturing.
Okay.
If I'm understanding you right.
Yeah, no, I think that would be very helpful. I do think that the commercial minor industrial, we could fit or try to fit into, right, this definition of what the character is and land uses is for PAD 41, but I'm having a hard time squeezing in the IG portion of it. And so I would like to hear a little bit more about that. If we, right, continue to say it's IG, I just want it to be addressed as to what inconveniences or not inconveniences or what we would do to protect the conveniences of the other districts to the north, east, and south, and then also a partial of the west, right? So just making sure that this project itself fits within this general plan description of such property, because it could fit in pad 6.2, and in the definition of this pad 4.1, it mentions that in the rationale, that mix of uses allows compatibility with adjacent land uses and provides maximum convenience for proposed pad 6.2 workers. So it specifically designates that there are other areas in the town that are to help with workers, jobs, which that's a lot of, right, what the staff report is based upon. But there is a place for that, and it's a little bit lower towards the east side, but it is mentioned there within this general plan.
Thank you for the question. I'd like to respond, but before I call up Shane Ross, the attorney from Tiffany Bosco, who represents the applicant, I'd like to point out to you on the map itself that the dark brown area is within town limits. That is actually annexed into the town. So that is the RCU 70 districts that surround that. To the east, to the north, and to the west there, those are still not within the town limits, so those would have to be annexed into the town for whatever use was going to go into that area. They would be annexed in at the closest zoning designation to the county, so they'd be designated RC 70, 70,000 square foot minimum. So as it was annexed in, each one would probably require a rezone to whatever particular zoning use was being requested. So in terms of the surrounding uses, the surrounding uses are whatever would be annexed into the town and whatever request is made for that surrounding land use. Now, it's not to say it couldn't be industrial or commercial or residential, but in pointing out that, there's low impacts for this type of project in that area, would they actually have a detriment, if you will, to surrounding uses? We've looked at the uses immediately surrounding this area. It's unclear what the county designations other than the RCU 2A would be, the 2 acre minimums. But as they came into the town, as they were annexed into town, they would most likely have a rezone accompanying that to whatever specific use they were asking for. Hopefully that answers your question, but I'd like to call Mr. Ross up.
Oh, sure, go ahead. I was just going to, Mr. Ruby, to that point, that is correct, right? So under you playing fair here, right, for both sides here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is classified that for RU, there's a consistent holding pattern for RU in that area based upon the general plan and what the vision is within the general plan. RU, though, is defined as classification for all areas of the town not presently characterized by urban uses, right? So there is a potential for it to be recharacterized into a different zoning bracket, right?
Mm-hmm.
So long as it's consistent with the GP.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Ruby, before we bring Mr. Ross up, please, Commissioner Erb has a question for you.
Sure.
And I just wanted to confirm, in the narrative, the property to the north and east is vacant. It's undeveloped land. Yes.
At this point, yes, ma'am.
At this point, perfect. So I couldn't put two and two together to get any inconsistencies or problems with this particular zoning affecting vacant land.
You are correct,
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thank
So Commissioner Erb?
Yes, I wanted to make sure I understood the RU 70 uses again. Did I hear either in your or other commissioner's description, light industrial in RCU is allowed? Or did I do that incorrectly?
Commissioner Erb, no, the RU district is rural residential. Our designation 70 is the minimum square footage per parcel, so that would be 70,000 square foot for a residential use. The industrial use would be if it was rezoned to industrial, that would be the use on that particular parcel.
I believe earlier, and forgive me if I misunderstood, when earlier you were listing all the uses allowed within that. Are you saying the uses that you listed earlier are for the IG
No.
or the RU 70?
Well, it's for the pad 4-1.
4-1.
There's a character of that area, and there's a list of mixed uses that could go into that area. I mean, this could be community commercial. We could have a resort built on that, on that parcel if the applicant at the time, developer, felt that that was appropriate for that area. So it could be a mix of uses that range anywhere from whatever's allowed in the IG district and in pad 4-1.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Ruby, I had 3 questions for you. Mr. Commissioner Erb took one, Commissioner Hewitt took the second one, and Commissioner King took my 3rd question. So kudos to you. So you're saved.
You have a great commission.
We do. So, any other questions, Commissioner? Right, okay, perfect, we'd love to. Yes, Commissioner Rutherford?
If I can find the, I wondered if it might be a good time to mention the practicality of this location, that Prescott Valley has lost employment opportunities by not having a suitable site for more distribution centers. And a flat land of this size is pretty rare in Prescott Valley. This is one of the only places where this sort of a use could go, to my knowledge. Big Sky couldn't take it. None of the existing industrial places have a large enough area for it. And if we are to grow and have employment opportunities, we need to be expanding the areas where this can happen.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner Rutherford. This is exactly what staff felt was appropriate for this location. The infrastructure is in place, so it doesn't have to be extended over a great length for sewer, for water. There are some improvements that need to be made to the roadways, but in terms of planning for future projection, future jobs, future ability for people to, for developers to look at this as a business park that could be maybe a supply chain for some of the projects that are going on in the North Valley in Phoenix, being able to have an ability to siphon off some of those indirect jobs as a supply chain provider. That's kind of what was looked at. It is IG in designation, but it's not envisioned to be a heavy manufacturing facility area, which would go into our heavy industrial zone. It's looked at as a potential business park with the addition of jobs for the area, jobs which are critically needed. So that was kind of the thought process behind that. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Ruby. We'll be happy to.
Chair, if I may.
Oh, certainly, Commissioner King.
Very vocal today. Since we're on the topic of jobs, I would like to address that issue here. We do say that the vision for this includes creating more jobs.
Commissioner King, excuse me 1 second. I know that the Amazon rep is with us this evening, the representative, and I think that might be a question better served for that particular person.
Go to you, Chair. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Were there any questions on the from the applicant's attorney regarding the provision of the IG designation? Did you want to follow up on that, Commissioner King? And what the intent was for identifying that particular zone?
Allotted to speak?
That's fine. Yes.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. For the record, Shane Ross, Tiffany and Bosco, 2525 East Camelback Road in Phoenix. Thank you for the opportunity for me to come up, and I'm happy to provide some more, a little more description as far as why we're proposing industrial general on the site, and answer any questions as well on behalf of the applicant, VTRE Development LLC, who's putting this project before you tonight. At first, before I get into it, I do have a little bit of a presentation as well. I'll skip ahead to answer your questions. But I do want to thank Mr. Ruby for such a wonderful presentation as well. I agree with your comments as well up here. Very comprehensive overview of what we're proposing. Again, thank you to the town, especially the staff, for taking a look at our application, making comments to our application, and really helping us move forward in the right direction. So thank you all who are involved so far in making this a proposal that we hope to make happen. Bear with me just a second as I load my presentation up here. I'm not super familiar with the technology up here. I think it will help with my explanation. All right. Is this the touch screen? Thank you so much. All right, so we'll skip ahead a little bit to what we're proposing, and I did want to introduce my client, Van Trust, VTRE Development LLC. My client is a national full-scale real estate development company. We are very excited to represent them. They are a quality industrial developer based in Kansas City originally, but we have a very strong Arizona presence with the regional office in Phoenix. These numbers are important to realize that we're dealing with a very quality partner in development for the town, with 115 industrial properties developed, representing 58 million plus square feet of industrial development, and that's $4.7 billion in total industrial development volume. So we really are partnering with a great company here that's ready and willing to put forward a quality product that hopefully the town is great for the town, great for the residents of the town as well. So I did want to mention that first. I'm going to go over this pretty quickly because Mr. Ruby did a great job already introducing our project. But you can see the town boundaries in blue here. This is the Yavapai County parcel map. So just an overall view of the the parcels that are adjacent to us that we have to be cognizant of as we discuss our land use goals and our rezoning goals. And just a little closer in view of our site compared with the surrounding uses around us. You can see the state of Arizona owns the land just to the west of us, and private landowners to the north as well as the northeast. And with the parcels to the east are the industrial commercial zone properties who are complementary of our project and are in support of our project as well. So I did want to just kind of go back over this map as well, the Tier 1 prioritized development map for land use for the county. And our area here, the Pad 4-1, this kind of whitish color where our proposed site is, what it is, and we can go over the language as well, it really prioritizes innovation in commercial and industrial development. So when an applicant puts forward the proposal that includes some of those uses, there's some flexibility there in what we can actually put forward with our project. There are some complementary uses along with the commercial and public interest sites to the east of us. But there is some flexibility there with the land use map. And again, the rezone, we talked about in great lengths, but we are looking for a rezone for industrial general. And you can see the surrounding uses there on this map too. And I did want to just bring this slide to your attention as well. The portion of the site that we're activating is a 19.11 acre site, 19.2 or so acre site for a delivery center. And we'll go into a little more detail of what that is, but essentially for e-commerce related uses, a delivery center is where if you were ordering a package online, you're basically getting a package that is received at this facility first, the day of, before it's delivered to your home, where it's unloaded from a truck, rerouted to the proper vehicle to then be rerouted to your address and dropped off at your home or business. So it's a delivery facility for packages. That's what this proposed site is and what my client is looking to move forward here. So that's what the preliminary development plan idea is, along with our rezone for the full 100 acres. But I did want to give some context to the scale of the site compared to the full 100 acres and the setbacks here. Now this is Commissioner King, just to answer your question a little more specifically about why are we going with an industrial general category over maybe a commercial category. You know, we looked at, first of all, the land use, as we talked about, you know, allows some flexibility there with a business park use, which includes commercial and industrial uses. Mr. Ruby did a great job of introducing that subject. As you kind of delve into what type of uses are allowable within a business park type of use, you look at, you know, what exactly are we proposing? We're proposing a delivery facility for wholesaling, for packaging, and those categories are sort of captured in Industrial A and Industrial C. This is right from the town code within the industrial general category for uses that are allowed on site. And so we saw that in order to maximize the potential site to capitalize on job opportunities for this proposed use for our delivery center as well as adjacent potential future phases of the site, industrial general was the best category that really fit into our narrative to really drive that home and do what's best for the town. But those two uses specifically really fit into industrial general more than any other category of proposed zonings that were allowed on this property. So I did want to bring that to your attention. I'm going to go a little out of order here. These are some of the conditions of approval for our project that we're fully cooperating with the town and look forward to moving forward on. And we can get back to that. And, Commissioner King, I'm going to skip ahead as well to a little bit more color to your slides, to your question, excuse me. So let's take one more step back with the PADs generally. Again, provides greater degree of flexibility and encourages innovation in commercial industrial development. And PAD 4.1 specifically does allow the mix of uses, including a business park use. So that is really our idea with this proposed rezone. And so this business park designation, it's intended to provide locations where major employment centers and uses can take place in an attractive environment. So it's here for a variety of uses, wholesale and storage, warehouses, packaging of goods, as I mentioned already. And this is right from the land general plan for the town, which is allowable. And as you kind of narrow in what's possible on this site, you look to see the general plan consistency with the zoning. And you can identify, and Commissioner King, you kind of identified there may be some other kind of overlapping zoning categories that maybe we could have utilized on this site, which if you look to the left, on the left-hand side, you can see that if you follow the business park line to the right, you can see that C3, and this is from the old code, the C3, PM, and M1. M1 is now the general industrial category, do fit into that business park category. And here's the three that you kind of can narrow it down to. Commercial, minor industrial zone. This is the Knackard facility to the east of us. And the purpose of this zone is to preserve areas for wholesaling, warehousing, light manufacturing. It sounds kind of similar to what I'm up here describing. What I think is different from that use is that there's a significant buffer requirement for commercial industrial for adjacent residential uses. And within this area, we're proposing a business park use. If you look at the map, there really aren't purely adjacent uses surrounding us. We have the commercial uses to the south of us. We have a commercial industrial use to the east of us, with the public lands uses to the east of them, who are fully supporting our project. And the full 100-acre rezone is going to be just that. It's going to be a business park use, and we're looking to maximize that site. So we didn't quite find that not only was there residential areas that we really didn't need to kind of fit in to create those additional buffers, but also we are looking to capitalize on those uses that my client is proposing. That delivery facility where the packaging, the wholesaling uses are required within the general and allowed within the general industrial use. That next category down, just to continue to go over it, performance manufacturing, and kind of another similar type use that you can kind of see, like, hey, maybe this is one that's maybe fits better, and maybe isn't as quite a intense use as industrial general, if you think about it. But again, this is a performance business type use where there are some restrictions on odors, noise, glare, vibration, nuisances that might be produced on site that adjacent residential communities would have to be aware of and would have to be mitigated against. Again, we didn't find that based on our analysis that residential communities are going to be impacted by what we're proposing and what the plan is for the business park use. And also, it's not quite the right zoning for this business park. It's really limiting your uses for more performance manufacturing type businesses, which we want to keep it a little bit more flexible. And so the industrial general is that last category. And again, it does kind of sound a little bit easier to manage, but it was one where there wasn't a residential buffer requirement. We were able to maximize the zoning on the site, really truly put forth a narrative that puts this business park zoning to the forefront to allow our client to propose a building that would attract jobs to the community, and then, like a domino effect, other users would then hopefully want to take advantage of the other sites and phase development on this site, and then help the community overall. So we really felt that the industrial general was the best category and was the best fit for this property. As Mr. Ruby said as well, each phase is going to go in front of the commission, in front of the town council for approval as far as engineering standards, setbacks, traffic requirements. Those specific site requirements are going to be approval items. And so even though we are proposing industrial general on the full 100 acres, we feel that there is enough buffer in terms of checks and balances from the town's perspective in order to make sure that we are not proposing uses that are going to be disadvantageous to the town. In fact, it's the opposite. We want to put forth a project or a rezoning that's clean design and is very attractive to citizens and folks that are passing through the town from 89 and in the surrounding businesses in this area. So I hope that kind of answers the questions a little bit. I just wanted to take kind of a bird's eye view and dive in a little bit. But does that help?
Well done, Council. It helps a lot.
Okay.
It makes, I think, not only myself, but also the constituents of this town, hopefully a little bit more comfortable. Keep me honest here. So we do not want the buffering, is what you were saying, that we would get from the commercial minor industrial, so that we can attract more people, more items, more things, more jobs into the community. So through this thoroughfare that leads us up to Jerome, drops us down into Sedona, Flagstaff, right? So then we would have a commercial you're looking more so as a business park than turning it into something that's completely industrial.
That's correct, Madam Chair, Commissioner. That's exactly the intent. We want it to be that sort of clean look and feel as you are coming down into the town, as you're traveling west to this area. And if you're at the fairgrounds, you're in an area that is conducive to a business park type feel and is not looking to be an industrial type feel to it. That's exactly as you stated.
Okay, understood. And I do agree that the checks and balances that have been put in place and defined here would be, it's very helpful to put, others at ease as well. Or any of your clients that you represent have any vision or foreseeability as to what you plan to put into such a business park aside from what the proposal is right now for Project Lynx?
Commissioner, it's a great question. At this time, we are proposing the rezone for the full 100 acres as well as the delivery center with phase one. We haven't identified, and we are actually, we're not identifying at this time other proposed uses for the site. My client is actually under contract for the 19-acre site where the proposed building is looking to be developed. The remainder, 80 acres or so, will remain as land, but will be utilized in such a fashion that if a user comes forward, they could put forth their own project and move forward in that manner.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Commissioner Erb, you have a question?
Mr. Ross, I want to leave this slide up here for a second because I have a couple questions relative to this, and I'm going to play the devil's advocate here on the community's behalf. If I heard you correctly, the reason why you would not, or your client, be in support of this rezoning to a CI versus the IG is because CI would require a larger buffer. You wouldn't be able to build right up to 89A because we're rezoning the entire 100 acres to IG. That correct statement?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, not quite, and I'm sorry if I misstated or wasn't quite clear in that, but I appreciate the question. We are in full cooperation of doing whatever is required based on town requirements to meet minimum site requirements for whatever we're proposing. We aren't intending to build right up against the highway in order to maximize lot frontage. We're really just proposing a project that is maximizing the potential for the site as a business park, which is allowable within the general land use category here. So it's not quite as much of avoiding buffers as much as finding an interpretation within the land use category that works for this proposed project of a business park. And so industrial general is the best use to do that. And we are looking to satisfy town requirements for setbacks if needed, especially off of 89A as those phases start to be built. But we're not at all looking to evade those requirements. We're purely, I guess the number one reason is because we don't have that residential need to tamper down our zoning. We could actually maximize the use of the site and attract the best possible tenants, the best possible owners of the site, future owners, to make this site the best version of itself that it can be in order to maximize the profitability and help enhance this community overall.
I understand and thank you, and I certainly don't misunderstand my question, and I don't certainly mean any disrespect to you or anyone in this presentation, but essentially by us changing to an IG, regardless of what you may convey here today or your client, doesn't prohibit, we could call it a business park all we want to call it, and it's a distribution center, but that doesn't mean the rest of the 100 acres couldn't be something different once that zoning has changed, which means it can be built all the way up to 89A, and it could be anything that falls into this IG category, which could be manufacturing to a degree. I think I read back on some other examples on another slide of what some of those categories could be, like concrete manufacturing to bottle manufacturing to, you name it. This isn't just a nice, pretty distribution center like we see, and we can debate whether these are pretty. I've seen distribution centers that are fairly large. This is only 86,000 square feet, I understand, but this is number one. What happens when we put another one out there and another one and another one? And this becomes some giant industrial park that is either A, all just big giant concrete tilt-up warehouses for storage or distribution, or we end up having some form of manufacturing in this space, which it was never intended to be in its current zone. That's my only comment. Wanted to make sure that was clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Mr. Ross, I understand the C1, the PM, and the IG, and as you stated in your narrative, I really feel that the IG is the best way to go to bring in complementary businesses where they're going to be hand in glove. And do I think that IG at some point in time will allow a concrete manufacturing plant? I would say absolutely not, due to the wherewithal of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the council. We wouldn't let that happen to our community.
I hope not.
So I do support the IG, and it is, in my mind, the best way to go for a rezone.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do you want to answer any questions on employment that I know Commissioner King had some? I have a few for your client, or how do you want to handle that?
You know, Madam Chair, I'll do my best. You know, my clients, the name was said tonight. Amazon is a proposed user of this delivery center. They are very preliminary right now. They are exploring this site. They have in no way committed to this site. I do want to make that clear that there were some sensitivities about announcing who that was, just because of the employment situation of Amazon in this community. We wanted to be cognizant to that and be aware, be mindful of that situation. And it's early in the stage, so I can say, and I won't be able to go into the specifics. I'd be more than happy to invite up Humberto, who does represent Amazon, who is here with us today to go through some specifics. But I do want to make that clear that we're very early on in the process.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
Chair Griffiths, I'd like to make a comment if I could.
Yes,
Getting back
sir.
to Commissioner Erb's comment about, I think where he was going with his comments were the idea with a rezone for the entire parcel, that there's a concern that things might be allowed as a matter of right based on the zoning. And so I hear your concern. And so I guess my question, to reiterate, these things would come back to the commission. We would review them and then decide accordingly, making a recommendation to the town council. So there is that stopgap to allow us to kind of then review any proposed uses that may be allowed as a matter of right, but may not be approved in that district. Do I have that right?
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Humberto, who can go over some more details. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Umberto.
Hi, good afternoon, Chairperson, Commissioners, members of the public. Humberto Quintana, I'm the Senior Economic Development Manager for Amazon for Southwest U.S. I'm happy to answer any specific questions, but starting with the question that you had, Commissioner King. This facility in and of itself, there's two buckets of employment that we have a potential to have. It's our Amazon associates, which are our associates that work within the warehouse, and then there's also a potential of employment generation, which are delivery service partners, which are delivery drivers. So in total, we're looking about approximately 350 employment opportunities that this site's going to generate. I will caveat, though, that we do have an existing facility in town that's about 50,000 square feet or so. Numbers that I looked at earlier was about a little over 200 or so employment opportunities there. So there is an increase in terms of size, in terms of employment opportunity as well. But our intent is to not be a renter in town, but be a landowner, and that's where we're looking to build on this approximately 20-acre lot to really cement our commitment to the community of Prescott Valley and to serve its residents. And again, our associates that work in our facility and deliver to your homes are its residents, so we're hoping to expand our footprint in town, and hopefully we'll be able to get to do that in the near future.
Thank you, sir. I'm assuming that you would have a staggered workforce and not all 350 employees would be arriving at one time?
That's correct. So we do have a variety in terms of our shifts structure. One of the things that we do, and just kind of to take a little bit of a step back, so the facility is a last mile delivery station. So we do receive packages here, and we basically break it down to create the routes for the day. And so we usually have our associates at the facility, usually coming in at early morning hours to kind of start preparing those routes. They put them in basically into baker's racks and create those routes. Our delivery associates then usually start to deliver those packages around 10 a.m. They go out in these routes in waves, so not necessarily to impact the community during peak hours. So we usually start around 10 a.m., go around for 2 to 3 hours, and it's usually 20 to 40 waves at each interval. They go out for a 10-hour shift, so they return back to the facility in that same type of staggered manner to the site.
Well, I know that I'm an e-commerce shopper, so I'm sure I would be helping your facility and get to know your drivers on a personal basis.
Absolutely.
In the narrative, it said that the delivery facility will facilitate the last mile delivery of packages to residents of the town. I'm sure that didn't mean the town, but will you go throughout the Quad Cities, or where will you be positioned for delivery?
Yeah, I'd have to take a look at it to really understand what our propagation map, but these types of facilities, usually the way it's based on population density and the number of packages, but in essence, a driver will go out as far as an hour out and kind of work its way back to the site. And that's usually how it operates. We do have these facilities. We're looking at sites in Flagstaff and other things of that nature. So we do tend to be a little bit more hyper-local. I know Commissioner Erb mentioned about, there are these larger facilities. Those are more of our fulfillment centers where our product is housed and sortation and cross-dock. So we have a couple of those in kind of the West Valley by Phoenix and Goodyear and Buckeye. But in this specific location, it is a much smaller footprint. That is a last mile delivery station to kind of really provide for the local area.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Umberto, Commissioner Erb?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you getting up and an explanation and stuff. And my question for clarification, so you said the new facility, if in fact you folks were to be the ones to occupy the new facility on the 20 acres and be landowners there, approximately 350 employees.
Correct.
Would that be a relocation of your existing facility on Enterprise Drive?
Yeah, so that's, as indicated, it's a newer facility for us. It's a built-to-suit. It's built basically to our specifications. We've outgrown that existing facility. We would be relocating staff to this location and then growing up to that amount.
So that 350 would include the current workload, or excuse
Correct.
me, employee staff of
That's
200 and something. So we'd be growing, just for sake of argument,
Sure.
50 to 100 employees at max, if 350 is your max and you're already at 200 and something. Is that correct?
Correct. And the one thing I did want to kind of emphasize, this specific facility, what we're looking to do at this location is a bit of a hybrid. We're still exploring. We're looking to do, in Amazon, we use a lot of acronyms. There's a lot of alphabet soup. So this specific facility is called a rural super rural. It's not in an urban core, but it's a delivery station. And it's a rural super rural plus. And what that means is it's basically allows to house product in-house, to allow also for delivery of most utilized products, everyday products, toothpaste, shampoo, whatever it may be, to be located and housed at this location to be shipped to folks so they don't necessarily see a lag time in delivery times. And in order to achieve this, we also allow for opportunities to deliver via flex drivers. And so a flex driver is basically similar to like an Uber and Lyft model where folks can sign up for a route. Folks that are students or folks that just want to make a couple extra bucks, they'll sign up for a route 4 hours a day, and they're able to deliver on our behalf. And you might see this already in some instances, in some areas, they might have this where you have an individual with the vest in their personal vehicle delivering on our behalf. But with this RSR Plus that we're calling to kind of house product in-house will allow for greater opportunities. So there's additional employment opportunities in that manner. Obviously, they're independent contractors, but it allows for additional opportunities for employment in that regard.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Umberto. Any other questions, Commissioner? Thank you, sir, very much for
You're
being
welcome.
here tonight.
Of course. Thank you.
I actually am sorry.
Yes.
I have a couple more questions for you here. So thank you very much for coming up here. This
course.
is possibly a fantastic opportunity for the town. Just trying to get some more details to understand exactly, what this looks like, what that background might be, how many employees would be there, right? And so we understand that you've outgrown your center, right? That is currently down off of the 69.
I believe it's Valley and
Right off of East Valley Road, right?
Correct.
That's the one? Okay, and so then we relocating some of those employees over to this facility, understood. So how many of those, is it foreseeable, how many full-time employees versus part-time work? Because my familiarity, I have a lot of familiarity with transportation, supply chain, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of this is part-time work. How many full-time jobs do you think that would bring in?
yeah, I don't have the exact figure at the moment, but I would say from a percentage standpoint, for the most part, and this is just in general for a lot of the last mile delivery centers that I've supported, I would say maybe close to 80-90% is usually full-time, but it all depends on the actual operations of each specific site. But I would say the vast majority are usually full-time.
Okay, understood. So 80 to 90% estimate, rough estimate would be full-time. All right, that being said, there are a lot of open jobs currently available for drivers that are not being filled because people are not applying for those jobs. So as of yesterday, per Indeed, on Indeed.com, there are 75 plus open job positions for drivers for companies that include FedEx, Yavapai County, Swire Coca-Cola, Hensley Beverage Company, Pepsi, Quad City Logistics, JB Hunt Waste Management, et cetera. So is there something that maybe your company would do and to be able to bring in qualified candidates that might apply for this job? Because there are a lot of jobs outstanding already in our community in this sector.
Sure. From our perspective, I know usually when we look at sites that we're looking to locate or continue operating, our workforce staffing team does do an analysis in terms of potential of a workforce pool to pull from. I wouldn't know the specifics as to how many vacancies there are in terms of our delivery service partners. I just know that usually our workforce staffing team usually has done that due diligence to really understand the job market in the areas that we operate to ensure that we're able to kind of provide to our customers at the end of the day.
Okay. And I also noted that you said that there might be, this facility might be used for storing items as well, possibly?
That's correct. So that's what we're exploring. We're exploring the option, which is called an RSR Plus, which allows to store product. So based on the most utilized products in the area, toothpaste, toilet paper, whatever it may be, to allow for folks to not necessarily see a gap in non-urban areas where they might be still waiting for product to come from our fulfillment centers to the delivery station. Those most utilized product, they usually host a variety of those on site to allow then folks to basically receive the same type of customer service that they're accustomed to in other parts of the U.S.
Okay, understood. All right, so just a note to the commission as well that if there are other employees that are coming in from the other area, this might be a good thing because then the road's not going to be clogged with so many additional drivers if there were to be, solid, right, 350, right? So, to be considered. That's all I have. Thank you so much for your time.
I'm here if you have any more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I did have a question of Mr. Latier. Thought you escaped.
Can't get away from you.
So I read all of your utility summary items, your list, very well put together, thank you. At what point in time are these summarized items to be implemented? There's no, probably it depends, right?
Yes, standard engineering answer is it depends.
Right.
In general,
Construction answer too, it depends.
correct. In general, the infrastructure improvements would need to be constructed prior to the facility being open for operation. That specifics on that, I can probably get more information. If the project does go to council, we can get some more information on that for you.
Thank you, I was just curious, I appreciate your answer.
And if I may, can I offer a couple pieces of information that might help answer your question from before? It seemed like there were some questions about the development, and you mentioned frontage up to the highway and so on. I did take a look at a couple of items while I was reviewing this project, and the site that they're showing, and just to give you a bit of a perspective, I don't have the map up here, but the site that they're talking about for this distribution facility sits about 1,600 feet off the road from Highway 89A. And the site itself sits about 20 feet below the highway. So from where you're sitting on the highway, if you look at where the site is, it's going to be about 20 feet below. I was taking a look at sort of the view sheds to see what that did. And it's not much different than what's out there now with the county facility that they have out there for their facility just to the south. I just wanted to give you that little piece of perspective because there was also a question about scenic corridors and so on. I did take a look on the ADOT website. State Route 89A is identified as a scenic corridor or scenic highway. That designation starts at milepost 322, which is about 5.5 miles to the north of this location. So I just wanted to get that information out there for a little bit of clarification for you to see if it helps you with the project.
Mr. Latier, appreciate it very much. Before we go to public comment, are there any other comments or questions for staff? Mr. Ruby, Mr. Ross, Mr. Umberto? No, perfect.
Madam Chair, if I may, one of the questions that was brought up was about the 89A interface and a buffer there. What the suggestion was going to be from staff to the commission is you could always impose a condition, for example, of a 100-foot buffer off of 89A for any subsequent projects that are within this area. And again, they're coming back to the commission as a PD, so they will be reviewed by you and then passed on to the council. What I'd like to do, though, is John Latier mentioned some of the conditions, and some of the conditions were asked here. There is a proposed list of conditions of approval. I'd like to kind of go through those and explain to you what's being required from our utilities department in terms of sewer laterals, water laterals, and as well as the TIA. So with your indulgence, I'll go through that before you open it up. The proposed conditions of approval. Number one, developer will be required to relocate the proposed domestic and fire connections to the existing 8-inch water line as approved by the utilities department. Number two, the developer must have a lateral service connection to the proposed sewer main as approved by the utilities department. Number three, the developer must extend the proposed 8-inch sewer to the north of the tract along County Fair Trail. Number four, the developer will be required to have an approved traffic impact analysis finalized with any off-site improvements by the town engineer. And that was what Mr. Latier referred to earlier. Number 5, the developer will have to be in general conformance with the approved site plan as approved by the town council. So again, getting back to the changes, significant conformance, things of that nature, that'll be covered. Number 6, the developer will be required to update and finalize the TIA to the town and ADOT approval. Number 7, the developer will be required to construct County Fair Trail to the town's industrial collector section to include engineered pavement structural section to accommodate traffic loading to the approval of the town engineer. Number 8, construct mitigations to state highways as determined by ADOT and the approved TIA. So this is ongoing as far as the ADOT comments, town engineers' comments in reference to traffic. Number 9, additional phase development on the remaining 80 acres will require final approval by the town council. So as you look at these conditions, they're conditions that are master planning this area, this entire 100 acres, providing the infrastructure that could accommodate additional phase development in this area. And that's what town staff is endeavoring to do.
Thank you, Mr. Ruby. And number 9 was one of my questions that Commissioner Bree took from me. She stole it right out from underneath of me, that require final approval by town council, and we need to implement that Planning and Zoning Commission. It comes before us as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
As we previously discussed,
Yes.
it is considered a PD, a plan development.
Perfect.
And that requirement is to come back to you for whatever phase. The commission will review and make recommendations that will then be passed on to council for their final approval.
Thank you, sir. Great
Yes,
job,
ma'am.
my friend. So, clerk, do we have public comment?
Yes, Kathy Heath and Jason Knox.
Welcome. Come, Miss Kathy.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Kathy Heath. I am a director and secretary of a local nonprofit known as LASER, Large Animal Shelters and Emergency Readiness. I am just here to make a record of a concern we have over a potential traffic issue in that area, specifically along County Fair Trail. We are taking no position on this matter other than just bringing our concern and putting it in the record. LASER is a 501c3 nonprofit. We provide shelter for barn animals during evacuations in Yavapai County. The county has provided a shelter site for us just off of County Fair Trail. We are by the RV park. There are 190 horse stalls there, and we have been activated 10 times and on standby another 10 times, all for wildfires, since we started in 2019. We have a written agreement with the county. They provide the facility, we provide the volunteers. Evacuees will bring their animals to us. We are the destination, we provide the sheltering services with our volunteers. But evacuees will come down Highway 89A, turn on County Fair Trail, and then take an immediate left on a service road that runs along the RV park. Traffic does tend to get backed up. The heaviest time is at the initial go that the sheriff issues. When evacuees show up at our shelter, traffic with trucks and horse trailers can be backed up on the service road onto County Fair Trail. And if it's a large evacuation, let's say Coyote Springs area, where there are a lot of animals, we could potentially have traffic backing up to Highway 89A. At our drill 3 weeks ago, we practiced with live animals and trucks and trailers. We had about 8 trucks and trailers there. And when they line up for the intake, and even though we try to process them as quickly as possible to get the animals settled in, we did have trucks and trailers backed up onto County Fair Trail. And that's just at a drill. So if there is a large evacuation and we have distribution trucks traveling County Fair Trail, we could potentially have a real problem there. We just want to bring this to your attention because it may not even be aware in a traffic impact study. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heath, and we certainly do appreciate what Laser does for our
Thank you.
community.
Thank you.
You're a very well-needed nonprofit.
Jason Knox, 4790 North Sheridan Lane. My wife says I spend far too much money on Amazon. The distribution center here is a great idea, but not here. The traffic issues are going to get somebody killed out there. We see this all over the area with all the residences all the way up, stretching almost to the outskirts of Chino Valley. They all come down to 89A, and we know what it's like already with traffic. An existing spot off of Valley would be much more appropriate. Across the street from their current facility, Dewey, up off of Ruger Road in Prescott. I know it's not PV, sorry about that, but it makes more sense. And it's safer. We built Enterprise specifically for these big trucks. And I don't have the time to get into the transportation issues. But everything has to come in by tractor trailer. This is going to be a 24-hour-a-day operation. And then the small trucks go out and do it. Come to my house, bring me my stuff. So this is not the appropriate location for this facility. I also have another question. Is this going to be leased by Amazon, or are they going to own it? Commissioner King, thank you for your insight. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Knox. Clerk, do we have any other public comment?
Not that are registered, but as stated earlier, we were having technical
Are there any
difficulties.
non-registered speakers?
Like I said, we had some technical difficulties, so if you did want to speak, you're more than welcome to. Come state your name at the...
Yes, ma'am.
Patricia Betzel, previous resident of Prescott Valley, currently in Chino Valley. So the question being presented here is really about what we're doing with these 100 acres and whether we're going to approve a PDP without any valid description or detail or easements or anything else for a company who is the world's largest, and I quote, online retailer and the second largest company in the entire world. So I think all of you should understand the legal ramifications of approving anything and inviting Amazon into our community. We do not want a sea of warehouses. We don't want to be Californian. We don't want to be Maricopan, okay? And I'm sorry, I forgot to pass something out, but I'll do it right afterwards. So the bottom line is that we're supposed to be committed here to raising the standard of living. If you do your homework, you will find that Amazon pays on average, and these are all from newspaper articles, and I will send them to you, 18% less than other companies. You will find that they have the highest rate of lawsuits, the highest rate of injuries,
Miss Patricia,
etc.
Miss Patricia.
Don't interrupt me, please, Sandy.
I'm
I only have 3
sorry, I will
minutes.
give you more time, but we're not here to discuss Amazon and
We
their
are here to
business
discuss
practices.
whether or not the Development Services and Commission is interested in following the general plan and the
Correct.
betterment of the community.
Correct, but not
So
to
there have been a
talk
lot of
negative about
minor
a potential
conditions.
business wanting to come to the town of Prescott Valley. And I will give you a few more seconds since
Thank
I
you.
interrupted you.
So what the staff report doesn't say, and I only saw 5 pages of a staff report and 18 pages of the project narrative. I don't know if all of you got a lot more information than that, but that's all that was posted to the public, just FYI. We don't see anything about the impact of rezoning on this town or its neighbors, the impact on ecotourism, which is supposed to be one of our major drivers, the desired rural image of the town, which is stamped all over the general plan, and we just voted on again in 2022. The wildlife corridors, the dead end that Ernie showed, SIMPO has funded nothing to pursue wildlife corridors, and they're supposed to be doing it for us. No watershed, no natural open space. And the scenic drives, what does the staff report says? It says there is a lack of significant features. So if driving up the 89 to Mingus Mountain, to visit Mingus Mountain, or Jerome, or Cottonwood, or Sedona, which is a big part of the attraction for people who come here, is not significant, I don't know what is. When we talk about the FAR, Ernie is referring to the FAR of just this one building. However, the legal FAR for this 100 acres is 1.0. They could build it out wall to wall. Understand that, okay? Just because they're not taking advantage of that in this first step doesn't mean they can't. Legally, they not only can do that, but if they can prove good cause, they can exceed it. Read the document. So the current plan doesn't include any industrial uses in the land use, and we are terrified of having, again, a sea of warehouses in this town. It would destroy the whole character of the town. The amount of traffic this warehouse will generate is going to be massive, and our noise ordinance only addresses the inside of a house. All of these people who buy private property with acres of land will not be able to use their outdoor space because there is no limit in the staff report on the operational hours. They can drive 24/7, and we already have that problem
Ms.
with a
Betzel,
Fane mine.
please wrap it up. Thank you.
Okay, I'm wrapping it up. So, and also note that in the project narrative, this customer is very, very interested on how the 89A connects us to Cottonwood and Sedona and even Flagstaff. Okay, there's a reason for that, and they repeat that twice. So, and finally, I'll just say we don't know enough about the future of these other 80 acres to really know what they're going to do with it. And so far, we've received no documentation that helps us understand that.
Thank you, Ms. Betzel. Do we have any other public speakers?
I'm Kathy Smith. I live on Rawhide Circle in Prescott Valley. Excuse me. And I'm sorry because I was a little sideswiped here because I didn't know it was going to be Amazon. There's been a lot of speculation.
Ms., try to speak into the microphone, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
you.
sorry. Yes, I'm taller. Patricia, I'm taller than you are. Okay, is that better?
Perfect.
Okay. So at any rate, I kind of guesstimated it was Amazon because there was some talk about it possibly being an Amazon distribution center. And I'm sorry, I didn't get the total statistics. I understand they assume there's going to be about, or they're estimating 350 jobs, but we're going to transfer over from the current distribution center 200 plus. So we're talking about maybe 150 jobs max, okay, right? Okay. Now, the current general plan, the one that was voted in 2022.
Get closer to your microphone.
One of the leaders, oh, there, I hear it. Sorry, I apologize. One of leadership's guiding principles is to, quote, promote an economically diversified community committed to raising the standard of living for its citizens through business, medical, and employment opportunities. And at the April 3rd Town Council study session, there was a section on affordable housing assessment, and the consultant, Elliott D. Pollock and Company, told us there that the average price of a new home is more than $500,000, that the current 3-bedroom apartment rent requires annual income of $92,080. And according to the town survey, 89% of respondents ranked affordable housing as the #1 community need. However, with Amazon, truck drivers' wages are below the national average for similar roles, and some reports suggest they're paid about 18% lower than the industry norm. And according to Commissioner, this was as of this afternoon, according to Commissioner King, as of yesterday, there were 75 outstanding jobs for truck drivers in this area. According to Indeed.com, this afternoon, the average salary for a truck delivery driver in PV is $75,809, or according to ZipRecruiter.com, $26.53 an hour. DoorDash estimated average pay is $28.45 an hour. And we are now talking about rezoning an entire section of land to industrial. Where is the benefit to Prescott Valley? We're going to add maybe 150 jobs for less than DoorDash pays, less than the average salary for a truck delivery driver. We were supposed to be, we've been told and hearing from the town council repeatedly that the focus is supposed to be on innovation, science, medical provision. I don't think that delivery truck drivers are what we want our Prescott Valley residents, 78% of whom commute out of Prescott Valley to work.
Thank you, ma'am.
To aspire to being a truck driver.
Appreciate your comments. Any other public comment?
Randy Vosberg, Prescott Valley. Patricia just handed out some information that just came to light. And, well, first I want to go back and mention what was also brought up. I'd like to know what's going to be done with the other 80 acres that's being considered in this, along with the 20 acres for the distribution center. I think we should know what they want to build there. Now, going back to the handout, so the town of Prescott Valley released this information that you have. They released it to BEX that serves architectural, engineering, and construction industry prior to sharing it with any of us in the town. In fact, the news was spread to developers far and wide for them to attend the neighborhood meeting that was held on March 3rd. And the article just was published on April 11th. So again, now the 86,000 plus square foot first phase planned on nearly, now that states 1,280 acres, but Ernest said there's 1,575 in pad 4-1. So again, like Patricia said, don't California or Maricopa, our land with wall-to-wall warehouses, industry. This is a rural town, according to the general plan. It's supposed to have a rural feel, a country feel. But we don't want a city. So I'm not going to read everything out of here. I did want to say that the staff report found that rezoning will maximize the land's potential to promote economic development, provide job opportunities, and enhance the ability for supply chain opportunities. The developers held the neighborhood meeting on March 3rd. However, the staff wasn't listed as an attendee. They didn't even attend it according to the list. So I find that rather interesting. Anyway, I think we need to think about this a little better before you start commercializing the whole east side of our town. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name's Lisa Bartlett, and I live in Prescott Valley, not too far from where the proposed project is intended to be. And I've been back to the Pepsi place several times because they've donated to events that we hosted. So I know where this area is. So you're taking 20 acres to give to a business that's been located here and not been any problem to us as far as most of us know as a business neighbor. But now they're getting bigger, and they want to come into an area where it'll upset the way of life for a lot of people, most of them seniors. Most of those trucks coming in with deliveries will be coming through Fane Road. All along there on the one side is a senior development. When they come up into 89, there are several developments that'll be affected by the noise of tractors and trailers coming overnight. That's when they get their deliveries, overnight. Well, if you go there at 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, it's almost empty because the trucks came in overnight to make deliveries, and then things are parceled out early in the morning so they can be delivered out. So, and you know yourself, at nighttime, sound travels further and louder, and those trucks are going to be very disturbing to the people that live there. And as our commissioners, you have a responsibility to all of us living here now. And to want to change that 100 acres for something sight unknown for a landowner who's been far, far, far from caring about what he offers to bring into Prescott Valley. I'm sure most of you remember we lost a 4-year a 4-year college coming into town. The morning after Fane's prison was rejected, the president of the college from NAU called Larry Turkowski and said, I cannot justify bringing in students to a town that might be a prison town. So that was my first dealing with this landowner. Then he wants to ruin Fane Park, running dump trucks through there. Fortunately, our council said it's not going to be approved, and they didn't let them run it through. He wants to do mines in neighborhoods.
Bartlett, we're here to discuss the zoning map change for
I'm
this center.
telling you why I don't think you should change it.
Because we're not here, ma'am, to discourage or
You
talk
want to
negative
change
about a developer.
100 acres
Perfect.
for one business that I don't think you should change it for, because that business is going to disrupt the life of people living here, and you can't trust what might come onto the other 80 acres. And for that reason, I think that you would be foolish and negligent in your duties to us to do that.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments.
You're welcome.
Sandy Cordova, Prescott Valley. I'm very upset about the rezoning. I feel that the town's leadership and the elected officials should manage growth with the best planning of new and diverse industries which promote economic growth, higher paying job opportunities, and environmental protection. I'm especially very concerned about the environment. We are in an overpumping stage of our water, so how would this be justified to put this industry at this time? And where does the preliminary development plan, how does it demonstrate this environmental protection? It's important that we think about the economic viability, the environmental quality, and raising the standard of living of its citizens are a very important consideration in zone change requests. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cordova. Any other public speakers?
Taller than that. I'm Steve Wood. I've been living in this town for 21 years, I guess. I live over in the Viewpoint. You know, I'm also a business owner in the town, but I want to talk more I've got 4 kids. I've got 2 of them that have to move out of the area to work. I've got 2 of them that are working here. And I know a lot of people who, we educate these kids and send them off to school and they don't come back. They don't come back because there's no jobs here. Is it an Amazon job that they're going to come back for? No. But I think we need to, as a town, we need to be growing. We need to be pushing. Let's get some jobs in here. We need jobs. We need jobs for our kids. We need to be able to keep our kids here. I got grandkids that are growing up, and they're already thinking about moving away. And it's, it's just kind of ridiculous. Is this the best place for an Amazon warehouse? I don't know, but I'm kind of glad they're looking at doing 100 acres. Maybe there's 5 businesses out there. If we get 150 from Amazon and 200 from the next one, 300 from the next one, we're starting to talk about some real jobs. As a commercial glass company owner, there's not enough windows in this building. But other than that, that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Pat Kirkendall, Prescott, and we're going to talk employment. And I appreciate you bringing that up, Commissioner, Chairperson. Thanks for having me here. And I really don't have a dog in the hunt, but for 5 years I was under Governor Ducey running state workforce for Arizona. Now I'm the business service rep for Yavapai County. And whether it's 150 jobs or 100, they're very important. Right now we're losing about 150 to 175 driving down to TCSM every day because I follow them down most mornings if I'm going down to the office in Phoenix. I also live out by the airport where there's a lot of industry. There's a lot of people that walk to work from Prescott Valley because their cars broke down and they don't have the flexibility. And thank goodness for Yavline is starting to run. But having jobs out here is going to be a big piece. Having jobs that maybe they can ride their bike to or have accessible transportation. We're also working with a local veterans nonprofit of moving a hub out here to slow down suicide prevention, to help with workforce, and to help our veterans have better opportunities with living and workforce. So, I think it's a great opportunity on behalf of myself. I'm not speaking on behalf of the state, but anything we can do. We have between 12 and 20 people in Prescott Valley come in and file for unemployment every day. Most of it's because of transportation. Their cars broke down, they can't get to work, and the employer in Prescott had to lay them off. And that's a big thing because they don't have any other options. And then it takes 4 weeks for unemployment to kick in, so what are they supposed to do? As somebody that's been through this Amazon plant, has been through Amazon plants across Arizona, very professional, we have people looking for Amazon jobs here that can't get them because there's no openings. So I hope you look at the workforce side, just like the gentleman Steve Wood said before. If we can keep our kids here, if we can keep jobs in the community, it's a win-win because they're spending money in the community. But when you lose somebody to drive to Phoenix every day, how much money are they spending in the community? They're spending it maybe down in Phoenix and stopping and shopping on the way back rather than spending in our community. So thanks for your time. If anybody would like to come and take a tour of the Arizona Work Center, we'd love to show you all the resources, vocational rehab, SNAP camp, see firsthand what the workforce goes through when they get laid off or when they're in a job search. Thank you for your time.
Would you please state your name for the record, sir?
Yes, Pat Kirkendall.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other public speakers, comments? We did have 2 letters that came in, and I will read those. They're relatively short. To the town of Prescott Valley from Steve Rutherford. The subject property is very well suited for the proposed use as a distribution center. The ingress and egress is more than adequate for the proposed use. I personally am aware of many inquiries for this type of use over the last 20 years. It is needed, and a lack of usable sites has been a detriment. This type of facility will be a job generator. We need many job generators here to provide jobs that can support families. That was a letter in support. There's another letter from Mark Worth. I'm writing this letter to express my support for the proposed rezone to industrial at the southwest corner of State Road 89A and County Fair Trail. I am the owner of Fairgrounds RV Park just east of the proposed rezone on County Fair Trail in the town of Prescott Valley. Rezoning the 100-acre property to industrial maximizes the land's potential for future business park/industrial development in this area. I also support the request for a preliminary development plan to allow for a distribution delivery center on the southern 20 acres of the property. I am confident that the project will contribute to economic growth and job creation for the town. Overall, this proposed rezone and future development of the site is positive for the residents of the town. I fully support this proposed rezone from residential to industrial. Sincerely, Mark Worth, Fairgrounds RV Park. At this time, I will close the public hearing. Commission, are there further comments and/or questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Thank you, Commissioner Bordone.
Mr. Ruby, can I ask you a question? So one of the comments you made about, and some of the speakers brought up, was setbacks from State Route 89A. With current development, what would be the setback from the right-of-way? I mean, do you know offhand?
Commissioner Bordone, it would be site-specific depending on the use.
Okay, okay.
But as I mentioned earlier, if it's the commission's desire, you could place a condition, for example, that a 100-foot setback could be required.
And that's why I kind of bring it up is, I don't have a big issue with the rezoning from the standpoint of its appropriateness. That's just my opinion. The concern I had is a setback, and that might be a condition that the commission could consider to really kind of deal with that issue. Other than that, I really don't have many issues with the rezoning of this property. I think you did a good job, as well as other members of the team that came up and explained, and some of the commissioners' questions brought out a lot of information regarding the industrial zoning. So I think that's one of the issues that would kind of solve any concerns I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bordone. Any other questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to either approve zoning map change 25-004 with the attached stipulations, and/or to deny zoning map change 25-004?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Laney.
Appropriate time for me to add my condition?
Absolutely.
I have a condition for the zone change. You've heard it before. This zone change for the full, no. If construction is not started on phase 1 within 5 years of the final date of approval, the zoning reverts back to the original zoning. You've heard it before.
So Commissioner Laney, is that a motion that you would like to propose for the conditions of approval?
My motion.
Is there a second for Ms. Laney's motion?
Is this for adding just that particular condition? Not for approving the zoning?
Correct.
I will second that.
Thank you. A motion by Commissioner Laney, a second by Commissioner Bordone. Clerk, will you please call for the vote for Ms. Laney's addition of proposed conditions?
Commissioner Rutherford?
Point of clarification. Would you repeat the motion so that I can hear it? Slowly. The aged brain takes longer to process audio.
Say it slow, repeat it slowly
Okay,
for her,
slow.
please.
All right.
I'm not hearing you. Perhaps our
If
chairman can repeat it.
If construction is not started on phase 1 within 5 years of the date of approval,
I would vote yes.
Thank you. Clerk, Commissioner Rutherford voted yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Huat,
Yes.
Commissioner Laney, Commissioner Bordone,
Yes.
Commissioner Erb,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes, as to add that as the 10th condition.
and Chair Griffiths.
Yes. So, Mr. Ruby, you will add that condition to the proposed conditions going forward.
Of course.
Thank you.
So, Chairman, also then, are there any other conditions people wanted to add?
That was the only one that has been brought forward.
Okay, because because I could make a motion and add my condition, but it could be part of the approval if that's okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the zoning map change, DMC 25-004. And the only condition I wanted to add was that the property will have a minimum setback, building setback of 100 feet from State Route 89A. But I'll add that just with the entire motion to approve the zoning map change.
Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Thank you. And that is the motion for approval of zoning map change 25-004 with Mr. Bordone's added stipulation that the setback is, Mr. Bordone?
100 feet from State Route 89.
Thank you.
Right of way.
Thank you.
A minimum of 100 feet. is what you
Minimum.
said, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you call for the vote?
Commissioner Huat,
Yes.
Commissioner Rutherford,
Yes.
Commissioner Laney,
Yes.
Commissioner Erb,
No.
Commissioner Bordone,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
No.
and Chair Griffiths.
Yes. So that zoning map change 25-004 passes. Thank you, Mr. Erb, for your presentation. Action item 8B, election of chairperson. Per town code. Vice Chair. Per Town Code, Section 13-13-010.c, officers, the commission shall elect its own chair and vice chair from its membership. Elections for chair and vice chair shall occur at the November commission meeting in odd-numbered calendar years. Number 2, a chair or vice chair may not consecutively serve more than one full 2-year term. A member may serve as chair or vice chair for more than one 2-year term, so long as the terms are not consecutive. A member who serves an abbreviated term as chair or vice chair as a result of a vacancy may be elected to fulfill a 2-year term at the conclusion of the abbreviated term. If the office of the chair becomes vacant, the vice chair shall automatically become chair for the remainder of the term. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
Chair Griffith, I would like to make a motion to nominate Commissioner Erb for vice chair.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Commissioner Rutherford,
Yes.
Commissioner Laney,
Yes.
Commissioner Huat,
Yes.
Commissioner Erb,
Yes.
Commissioner Bordone,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Chair Griffiths.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Item 9, adjournment. Any further business? And since there's no further business, we are adjourned.